So this video is around the idea of supporting the pelvis with the deep internal muscles of the pelvic floor and about the movement correcting of the diaphragm so that we're using our diaphragm and pelvic floor together. So first of all, thinking about breath. If we think about our diaphragm moving up in this direction as we exhale and moving down in this direction as we inhale, then the feeling that we get around our belly is that when we breathe out, the belly goes hollow, as if the air is being lifted out from the pelvis. And when we breathe in, there's a feeling of the belly getting a little bit bigger as the pressure goes back down and the diaphragm descends. So your focus needs to be mostly on the out breath, the feeling of the diaphragm relaxing and lifting back up and the belly going hollow. And you breathe in, just give yourself a gentle little breath in with a gentle feeling of belly expanding. The things to notice is that the top of the chest has minimal movement. If the diaphragm isn't moving very well, what we experience is a lot of movement in the top of the chest. So then just revisit this feeling of exhaling and lifting from the belly. The next part we're going to look at is where we're stabilizing from to do with the pelvic floor. So where your pelvis is, at the front you've got your pubic bone, and at the back you've got your tailbone. And if you imagine an elastic band that's slung between your pubic bone and your tailbone, that's representing the pelvic floor. What I want to do is I want to use that sense to draw the tailbone forward towards the pubic bone, and the pubic bone then pulls up towards the belly button. So I'm activating the pelvic floor to correct my pelvis rather than my buttocks. The mistake we sometimes make is we get grippy in our buttocks and hamstrings and we pull down from these big muscles rather than pulling in and up from the muscles deep inside the pelvis and the abdominals. So if we translate that into a pelvic tilt lying on your back, so what I want to experience is that I'm creating a tilting action of my pelvis in that direction. It's called a posterior tilt. I want to feel that I'm creating that by activating the back of the pelvic floor, pulling my tailbone towards my pubic bone, and then my pubic bone pulls towards my belly button up towards my rib cage. So pelvic floor, abdominals. I'm noticing that my buttocks and my hamstrings are very relaxed. And then I can add my breathing to that. I'm going to breathe out as I hollow my belly and create the tilt. Breathe in as I relax back the other way. As I breathe out, belly hollows, pelvic floor, abdominals. As I breathe in, my pelvic floor relaxes. So if we take that into a cat stretch, on hands and knees, if I do that same tilting action, tailbone, pubic bone, belly button, my spine rounds, accessing it from the pelvic floor and abdominals. When I go the other way, I release my tailbone, release the back of the pelvic floor, and the accidental movement we sometimes do is this area of the rib cage can sometimes drop, which looks like this. So try to keep the rib cage connected so that as you release your tailbone into what's called a neutral position for your lower back, that you're not dropping your ribs. So let's just run that through again. Tailbone, pubic bone, belly button. That's my abdominals and my pelvic floor. Then I'm going to release all of those tissues around the back of the pelvic floor, the back of the hips, without dropping my ribs. This puts me into a nice neutral position for my spine. And what I then want to do is make sure that I can move my hips without disturbing my lower back and my pelvis. So this teaches your body the concept of moving the hip socket without disturbing the pelvis. My ribs are gently tucked in. My tailbone is gently lifted, and I've got a very nice, very easy straight line. What you can do with your breathing is you can breathe in as you release into the back of the hips. Breathe out, hollow the belly to come forward. But you can see there's no movement in the pelvis. Breathing in, breathing out. Now the way that translates into standing and walking is if I'm standing up and I'm going for a walk, what I want to know is I sense that I'm correcting the position of my pelvis. So I'm not doing a big tuck, but I feel the direction of my tailbone to my pubic bone to my belly button that holds my position of my pelvis vertical, so that my legs can move around. I could bend them up, I could take them back, I can walk around, but my pelvis is very stable, being held with these internal muscles. So you don't want to walk around with your pelvic floor and your abdominals gripped and tight, but you do want that sensation of the position. Then you can also focus on your breath here. So I can hold that shape, and I can feel that when I breathe out, there's a hollow feeling of my belly that lifts the air up and out. And when I breathe in, there's a gentle expansion of my belly. So you breathe out, it lifts, this is nice and stable. When you breathe in, slight expansion of the belly. Very good.